Why we suffer when we try to control everything. Part 1. Why we suffer when we try to control everything. Have you ever noticed how the harder you try to control life, the more exhausted you become? Perhaps you've planned everything perfectly. You worked hard. You made careful decisions. You gave your best effort. And yet, life unfolded in a completely different direction. Replace with, and yet, life unfolded in a completely different direction. Someone disappointed you. An opportunity disappeared. A relationship changed. Or circumstances shifted without warning. At first, you tell yourself that if you work harder, everything will eventually fall into place. Replace with, at first, you tell yourself that if you work harder, everything will eventually fall into place. So you push harder. You worry more. You try to predict every outcome. You try to prevent every mistake. You try to influence every person around you. But something unexpected happens. The more control you seek, the less peace you feel. Replace with, the more control you seek, the less peace you feel. Why? Because much of our suffering does not come from reality itself. It comes from our resistance to reality. More than 2,000 years ago, the Stoic philosophers understood a truth that many people still struggle to accept today. The world has never promised certainty. It has never guaranteed fairness. And it has never agreed to obey our expectations. Marcus Aurelius ruled one of the greatest empires in history. Yet he could not control war, disease, betrayal, or death. Instead of fighting reality, he learned to master himself. Replace with, instead of fighting reality, he learned to master himself. That simple shift changed everything. He stopped asking, "How can I control the world?" and began asking, "How can I control my response to the world?" Those two questions may sound similar, but they lead to completely different lives. One creates anxiety. The other creates freedom. One leaves you constantly disappointed by people, events, and circumstances. The other teaches you to remain steady, even when everything around you changes. Replace with, the other teaches you to remain steady, even when everything around you changes. Perhaps the greatest illusion we carry is the belief that peace will finally arrive when everything goes according to plan. But what if peace was never waiting at the end of perfect circumstances? What if it has been waiting inside your own mind all along? That is the journey we begin today. Not the journey toward controlling life, but the journey toward mastering yourself. Because the moment you stop trying to control everything may be the very moment your life truly begins. Replace with, because the moment you stop trying to control everything may be the very moment your life truly begins. Part 2. The invisible prison of attachment. If trying to control everything creates suffering, then what keeps us trapped in that struggle? The answer is surprisingly simple. Attachment. Not love. Not ambition. Not success. Attachment. Many people confuse attachment with caring, but they are not the same. You can deeply love someone without trying to possess them. You can pursue success without allowing success to define your worth. You can enjoy wealth without becoming a prisoner of it. Attachment begins the moment we believe that our happiness depends on something outside ourselves. A promotion, a relationship, recognition, money, status. None of these things are wrong. The danger begins when we believe, I cannot be happy without them. That single belief quietly becomes a prison. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you hold it gently, most of it remains in your hand. But squeeze it tightly, and the sand slips through your fingers. Life works much the same way. The harder we cling, the more we fear losing. And the more we fear losing, the less we are able to enjoy what we already have. The Stoics understood that everything we possess is temporary. Our careers, our possessions, our health, even the people we love. This was never meant to make us pessimistic. It was meant to make us grateful. When you understand that nothing lasts forever, you stop taking ordinary moments for granted. You become more present, more appreciative, more alive. Detachment does not mean loving less. It means loving without fear, working without desperation, giving without expecting control, living without becoming enslaved by outcomes. Real freedom begins not when the world finally gives you everything you want, but when your peace no longer depends on whether it does. And perhaps that is the greatest freedom any human being can ever discover. Part 3. 5 timeless lessons that can set you free. Freedom. Most people spend their entire lives searching for it. They believe freedom means having more money, more time, more choices, more success. Yet history tells a different story. Some of the wealthiest people have lived in constant anxiety. Some of the most powerful leaders have been prisoners of fear. And some of the happiest people owned almost nothing. The Stoics believe that true freedom is never found in the outside world. It begins within. Over 2,000 years later, their wisdom feels even more relevant. Especially in a world filled with endless notifications, constant comparison, and artificial intelligence competing for our attention. So what did they understand that many of us still overlook? Perhaps it can be summarized in 5 timeless lessons. Lesson 1. Control yourself, not the world. You cannot control the weather. You cannot control the economy. You cannot control what people think about you. But you can always choose your response. The moment you stop fighting everything outside yourself, you recover the only power that truly belongs to you. Lesson 2. Acceptance is strength. Acceptance is often misunderstood as surrender. The Stoics saw it differently. To accept reality is not to approve of it. It is simply to see it clearly. Only when we stop denying reality can we begin to change what is actually within our reach. Denial wastes energy. Acceptance creates clarity. Lesson 3. Detachment is not indifference. You can love deeply without becoming dependent. You can work passionately without allowing success to define your worth. You can pursue great ambitions while remaining peaceful if life chooses another path. Detachment is not the absence of emotion. It is the freedom to experience life without becoming controlled by it. Lesson 4. Your reaction creates your reality. Two people can face the very same challenge. One becomes bitter. The other becomes wiser. The event is identical. The response is different. Life is not always shaped by what happens to us. It is shaped by the meaning we give to what happens. That is where true freedom begins. Lesson 5. Peace begins within. Many people postpone peace. I'll be happy when I earn more. I'll be happy when everything is finally under control. But that day rarely arrives. The Stoics understood something extraordinary. Peace is not the reward for perfect circumstances. Peace is the foundation from which meaningful action becomes possible. When your mind is calm, your decisions become wiser. Your relationships become healthier. Your leadership becomes stronger. Your life becomes more intentional. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Freedom is not something the world gives you. It is something you quietly build. One thought, one choice, one day at a time. And in the next chapter, we'll discover why these ancient ideas have become even more important in a world shaped by artificial intelligence, endless distractions, and constant information. Part 4. Why ancient wisdom matters more than ever in the age of AI. For thousands of years, human nature has remained remarkably consistent. We still seek happiness. We still fear uncertainty. We still struggle with anger, disappointment, and the desire to control what cannot be controlled. What has changed is the world around us. Never before in history have we been surrounded by so much information. Every minute, thousands of headlines compete for our attention. Millions of videos ask us to keep scrolling. Algorithms learn what captures our emotions. Artificial intelligence can answer almost any question within seconds. This is an extraordinary achievement, but it also presents a new challenge. When information becomes unlimited, attention becomes priceless. And if you cannot control your attention, someone else will. The Stoics never had smartphones. They never faced social media. They never used artificial intelligence. Yet they understood something timeless. A distracted mind is an easily controlled mind. Think about your own day. How many times have you reached for your phone without even realizing why? How often do you compare your life to carefully edited moments from someone else's? How much time do you spend reacting instead of thinking? Marcus Aurelius wrote that the quality of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Today, that idea has become more important than ever. Because artificial intelligence can process information faster than any human being. But it cannot decide what kind of person you should become. It can generate ideas. It can summarize books. It can solve complex problems. But it cannot replace wisdom. It cannot replace character. And it cannot replace your ability to choose what truly matters. This is why Stoicism is not becoming outdated. It is becoming essential. In a noisy world, it teaches silence. In a reactive world, it teaches reflection. In a distracted world, it teaches focus. And in a world obsessed with controlling everything, it reminds us to master ourselves first. Perhaps the greatest competitive advantage in the future will not be having more information than everyone else. It will be having a calmer mind, clearer judgment, stronger principles, and the discipline to think before reacting. Because technology will continue to evolve, the world will continue to change. But a mind trained in wisdom will always remain one of the rarest and most valuable assets a person can possess. In the next chapter, we'll move from philosophy to practice and explore how you can apply these timeless principles in your personal life, your career, and even your business. Starting today, should I believe? The real question is, what should I do tomorrow morning? The answer begins with small decisions. Not dramatic ones. Small ones. When something goes wrong, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take action. If the answer is no, practice letting it go. This single habit can save you countless hours of frustration. The same principle applies at work. Whether you're leading a company, managing a team, or building your own business, you cannot control the market. You cannot control your competitors. You cannot control every customer. But you can control your preparation, your integrity, your consistency, and the quality of every decision you make. That is where long-term success is built. The same is true in relationships. You cannot force someone to understand you. You cannot force respect. You cannot force love. But you can become the kind of person who speaks with honesty, listens with patience, and walks away with dignity when necessary. Even your daily routine can become a Stoic practice. Spend a few quiet minutes each morning. Write down what truly matters today. At the end of the day, ask yourself one simple question. Did I control my actions? Or did my emotions control me? You may be surprised how quickly your life begins to change. Not because the world becomes easier, but because you become stronger. This is the quiet power of Stoicism. It does not promise a life without challenges. It prepares you to face every challenge with a clearer mind, a steadier heart, and greater wisdom. In the next chapter, I'll share a few simple tools that I personally believe can help you build these habits more consistently. Not because they replace wisdom, but because they make practicing wisdom a little easier. Part 6. The tools I would choose to build a Stoic mind. The Stoics believe that character is built through daily practice, not through inspiration alone. A single idea can change your life, but only consistent action can change your future. People often ask, if you were starting over today, what would you use? My answer is surprisingly simple. Not because these tools create wisdom, but because they create the space where wisdom can grow. The first tool would be a notebook. Every meaningful thought deserves a place to live. Ideas disappear quickly. Writing slows the mind. It helps you think more clearly. The second would be timeless books. Not hundreds of books. Just a few worth reading again and again. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus. The greatest books don't simply give us information. They reshape the way we see ourselves. The third tool would be artificial intelligence. Not to replace my thinking, but to sharpen it. I would use AI to summarize difficult ideas, compare different perspectives, organize research, and save time on repetitive work. The goal is not to think less. The goal is to spend more time thinking about what truly matters. Next, I would keep a simple journal. Every evening, I would write 3 questions. What did I do well today? Where did I lose control of my emotions? What can I do better tomorrow? These questions take only a few minutes, but over months and years, they quietly transform the person asking them. And finally, I would protect something that has become incredibly rare. Silence. No notifications. No endless scrolling. No constant noise. Just a few uninterrupted moments each day. To think. To reflect. To simply be present. If you're curious about the books and tools that have helped millions of people build better habits, improve their thinking, and continue learning throughout life, I've placed a few of my favorite resources in the description below. Explore them if they feel useful. Leave them if they don't. Because the most important investment will never be the tool itself. It will always be the mind using it. And before we finish, there's one final truth that every thoughtful person should understand. Especially now, as we enter the age of artificial intelligence. Part 7. Your next decision begins now. We've covered many ideas together today. But if you remember only one, let it be this. You cannot control the world, but you can always choose who you become within it. That is the quiet power of Stoicism. It doesn't promise an easier life. It prepares you to live it with greater wisdom. Perhaps the greatest freedom has never been financial freedom, or professional success, or the approval of others. Perhaps the greatest freedom is waking up each morning knowing that your peace no longer depends on circumstances you cannot control. Imagine how different your life could become. Imagine making decisions without fear, leading without ego, loving without attachment, working without constant anxiety, facing uncertainty with quiet confidence. That journey does not begin next year. It begins with your very next decision. Maybe that decision is to spend less time chasing distractions. Maybe it's repairing an important relationship. Maybe it's finally beginning the project you've postponed for months. Or perhaps it's simply choosing to pause, take a deep breath, and respond with wisdom instead of emotion. Before we say goodbye, I'd like to ask you one question. What is the one thing in your life that you're trying to control, even though you know it's beyond your control? Share your answer in the comments below. You may discover that thousands of others are facing the very same struggle. And perhaps your story will become the encouragement someone else needs today. If this conversation has given you even one new perspective, consider subscribing to Timeless Quotes TV. Every week, we explore timeless wisdom, practical philosophy, and life lessons that remain just as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. In our next episode, we'll explore a question that may become one of the most important challenges of our generation. The truth about clear thinking in the age of artificial intelligence. Can we still think for ourselves when answers are only a click away? Can wisdom survive in a world overwhelmed by information? And what separates people who merely consume technology from those who use it to build extraordinary lives? We'll explore those questions together. Until then, guard your attention, protect your character, question your assumptions, choose your response before your emotions choose it for you. Because your future will never be built in one extraordinary moment. It is built quietly. One thought, one decision, one habit, one ordinary day at a time. And perhaps the life you've been searching for will begin the moment you stop trying to control everything and finally learn to master yourself. Thank you for watching. Until next time, live wisely, live intentionally, and remember, the greatest victory has always been the victory over yourself.